Hi, everybody. It's Eric Murray from thesugarhuddle.com. Well, Philadelphia Eagles in 2017, when they won the Super Bowl, it felt like they got all the right bounces, all the right play calls, and general decisions that they made. It just felt like all of them were right. And you fast forward to this year, they came into the Sunday night game against the Rams at 6-7. Some bookies had them as almost a 2 touchdown underdog, and it just kind of felt like everything that could go wrong this year has, whereas last year everything that could go right did. And at the end of the day, Philly, they're trying to hang on for dear life, try to stay in this division, and in particular this wild card playoff race. So they desperately needed to find a way to manufacture a victory on Sunday night in LA. LA had came in the game undefeated at home. Of course, in the case of the Eagles, what's really interesting is obviously the fact that Carson Wentz, the back injury, now Nick Foles comes in to possibly finish out the rest of the regular season. He's going to start again in week 16, so it's going to be at least 2 starts for him, possibly also week 17. We'll see. But it's just kind of interesting because now Foles comes in, and you have to say, is he going to possibly come off the bench and lead the Eagles back to the postseason and possibly on another Super Bowl run? Obviously, they have to get to the playoffs first. We'll see. It's just one game. But ultimately, on Sunday night, the Eagles came into LA and they got it done. They ended up winning 30-23. Remember, they actually had a 30-13 lead, and the Rams outscored them 10-0 in the fourth, but they weren't able to get it done on the last possession. So, just a really, really impressive performance all around by the Eagles. Definitely one of their most complete performances all year long, and definitely have to credit the defense because we know the defense certainly been all over the place all year long, and just the way that they were able to kind of keep everything in front of them. Jim Schwartz's defense forcing Jared Goff into check down after check down. The Rams running game, they only had like 82 yards. Todd Gurley with 48 had a couple of short rushing touchdowns. So, Philly just did a great job defensively, and then offensively they look like a totally different football team. With Foles, he doesn't try to force it to his tight ends as much. He's really big on getting it to Alshon Jeffrey, and Jeffrey ended up with 8 catches for 160 yards in this game. And it really started. It was tied at 13-13. It was third quarter, and the Eagles, they got good field position. They're at their own 41, and Foles fires a deep, arcing, almost like a javelin-like throw down the field, jump ball middle of the field, and Alshon Jeffrey is able to elevate all 6'3 and a half, 6'4 of them, and haul in the catch at the 9-yard line. And then Wendell Smallwood easily walks it in on the very next play to give them a 20-13 lead. They soon turn that into 23-13. And then finally, big play, Rams in their own territory, facing a 3rd and 1, and on the 3rd and 1 play, Jared Goff was going to try to drop back from under center and try to throw it, and he gets stepped on, falls down, tries to pick up the ball, tries to recover, and he's getting ready to get sacked. He's getting hit, and instead of just, basically taking the sack and punting it away, he tries to kind of throw it, and it comes out of his hand awkwardly, and then it's snagged out of the air and intercepted, and ultimately the Eagles are able to turn it into another touchdown. And so suddenly they're up 30-13 going in the fourth quarter. As for LA, you do have to give them credit because at that point it kind of felt like, maybe the Eagles, this big underdog, were going to just completely embarrass them on their own home field, the way that the Rams got embarrassed on the road in Chicago the previous Sunday night. But ultimately what happened was, Philly driving, Nick Foles, one of his few bad throws in the night, tries to force it, ironically, to Ertz, who wasn't really very much involved in the game plan in this one, and Aqib Talib picks it off, and then they're able to drive down, kick a field goal. They force another punt, and then they're able to drive down, get a touchdown, and then with 4 minutes left, they have a chance to get the ball back again. Or actually, I'm sorry, with a little over 3 minutes left, they have a chance to get the ball back again. They scored with a little over 4 minutes left. But anyways, with just over 3 minutes left, they have a chance to get the ball back. And then a play that really sunk the Rams, even though they ended up getting the ball back again, play really sunk the Rams. JoJo Natson, their punt returner, he fumbles the punt, and just a killer play because, it kind of negated the timeouts they used, and it meant that if they get the ball back, They're only going to have about a minute left, which is basically what happened. You know, Eagles missed the field goal, 53-yarder for Jake Elliott, which is a tough one, and put them in a tough spot because they needed to kick the field goal, make it a two-possession game, but nonetheless, they weren't able to get it, and you know, LA got the ball back again. But what we saw throughout the entire game, Goff, you know, had to deal with a lot of pressure. Couldn't, you know, there's nobody open down the field, and so ultimately he had to keep checking down. Some of those check downs wound up inbounds, winding the clock, and of course the last one to Gurley, I think it was like an 8-yard completion. They had to spike it. They had to kill the clock with 4 seconds left, and they were still only at the 18-yard line. So that meant they only had one shot at the end zone, unless, of course, there was a, you know, some sort of pass interference or what have you. But they only had one shot at the end zone, have to push it almost 20 yards into the end zone. And, of course, the Eagles lined up all their defensive backs, you know, across the goal line, all across the goal line. And, you know, for the Rams, you just were kind of had to pick your poison, throw it to somebody and see what happens. And ultimately it sailed out of the end zone when he tried to target Josh Reynolds. So, you know, it's looking at it first from the Rams' point of view. They're 11-3, and what's concerning is, you know, Goff, 2 interceptions in this game, now has 6 over the last 2 games. Even the game before that, when they beat Detroit, he didn't play well. So, you know, this is 3 games in a row where he hasn't looked good. The Rams as a whole, back-to-back games, haven't played well at all. And you have to wonder, you know, last year, including the wild card playoff loss, they finished the year by losing 3 out of 5, and you wonder if the way this team is built, maybe they just kind of wear down, or they're easier to figure out late in the season. They just kind of peter out a little bit. And so now they have to answer those questions. You know, remember, they finish off the year with 2 division rivals, with the Cardinals and the Niners, who, even though the Niners had played well the last couple games, both teams are obviously bad teams with double-digit losses. So that could be a great tune-up to get ready for the postseason. But if they do lose one of those games, you know, you do kind of have to ask yourself, unless, of course, they sit starters in the final game. But if they play everybody for the entire game the next 2 weeks and they lose one of those, you really do have to question this team how far they can go in the playoffs. Because, you know, if they can kind of get back on track, then you still feel good about them possibly making a Super Bowl run, that this is just a little blip on the radar screen. But, you know, they're just not playing the kind of football that we've seen out of them all year long. And you just have to wonder, you know, are they going to be a early playoff exit? Because that's something that not a lot of people were expecting a couple weeks ago. Now all of a sudden everybody's really questioning and really doubting him. So it's going to be interesting to see if Goff can finally get back on track. You know, the pressure in his face is really bothering him. He didn't have to endure that for most of the year. And obviously that's also affected the running game. So, you know, Goff had a lot of wildly inaccurate throws and forced a couple interceptions. And then, again, the running game not doing much the last couple of weeks. So they need to find a way to get back on track there. And then, obviously, from the Eagles' standpoint, again, you know, can Foles possibly rally him a second year in a row? You know, the defense, if they can play like this more often, more consistently, they're going to be a tough team to beat week in and week out. Because remember, they play the Texans this Sunday, so, you know, they're in a position where they're not out of the woods because you play the Texans, and then all of a sudden the Redskins game, week 17, may not be as easy as you think it is. So, you know, Philly still needs a lot of help, but obviously Foles, he played a heck of a game, didn't get sacked. They had 111 rushing yards, which isn't an amazing total by any means, but 111 team rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. You know, I mentioned what Jeffrey did. Wendell Smallwood was the main rusher for them. So really have to be impressed. You know, the fact that you go against the defensive line, you know, interior that includes Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh, and the fact that you don't give up a single sack. You know, Foles did get hit a couple times, but overall did a nice job of protecting him. This, again, was just an all-around team effort. Nice job for the most part in special teams. Jim Schwartz, again, defensive coordinator, doing a great job there. It's a big win for Philly, but again, not out of the woods yet. We got to see what they do against the Texans before we can really kind of jump on that bandwagon. But nonetheless, they're keeping pace in the playoffs, and as for the Rams, they need to kind of fine-tune things. Obviously, they're already in the playoffs. So please go to thesugarhuddle.com for more. Please like my Facebook page, Sugar Huddle, and also please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you.